Southern California, good afternoon, and welcome to another edition of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. We have ourselves another jam-packed show, as always, as the Dodgers are unfortunately out. They got bounced in the NLCS against the Atlanta Braves. Congrats to the Braves and to the haters of the Dodgers who suck. I'm kidding, but how did the Dodgers lose? What went wrong? The Rams were able to squeak out a win over the Detroit Lions as Matt Stafford got his revenge against his former team, as the Rams take on the Texans and the Chargers take on the Patriots this weekend. Can the Chargers beat the Patriots for the first time since 2008? Or will history repeat itself? Also, the Lakers and the Clippers are unfortunately off to a sluggish start. LAFC and LA Galaxy are still in the playoff hunt. The Galaxy are closing in on a possible playoff spot. We have a whole lot more to talk about on the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. This is Teran Rodriguez bringing you another edition of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show here on iSports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. And welcome one, welcome all to another edition of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. Thank you very much for being here on this beautiful Friday afternoon and joining me, whether you're live or whether you're on the playback or whenever. I appreciate you tuning in. Without any further delay, let's get on into the Southern California sports action. But first and foremost, we have a word from our sponsors. The first sponsor for iSports Radio is the Southern California Warriors semi-pro football team. The Warriors dropped a tough one to the Riverside Disciples 28-12 over the weekend, as their final game of the season is tomorrow against the Moreno Valley Kings. Currently, the Warriors are 4-5 on the season, and I would like to see the Warriors finish 5-5. I would not mind seeing them finish 5-5, and I would also love to see them in the postseason. I don't know if they'll be able to host, but if they get into the postseason, that would be spectacular. Sorry about that. I accidentally pressed the mute button. Anyway, the world of semi-pro sports is unlike any other sports organization. Players pay to play in hopes of so many different outcomes, whether it's playing to get film to try out for professional teams, big-time colleges, or just playing to stay in shape. No matter what, all semi-pro players have one thing in common, and that's playing for the love of the game. The SoCal Warriors have been on a quest to earn titles and give players second chances since 2017. Whether you're in Southern California or anywhere in the world, give semi-pro sports a chance if you love your sport. You may get that second chance you've been waiting for as an athlete. You can follow the SoCal Warriors on Twitter at SoCal Warriors. You can also follow them on Instagram at Southern California_Warriors. You can also follow them on Facebook by typing in the word Southern California and then Warriors. Second sponsor for iSports Radio is Background Check International Businesses. Are you looking to background check a new hire on? Let Kip Freeman take care of that for you. Kit founded and has managed Background Check International businesses since 1994 and is here to help you with the screening process. Contact Kit and let him help make the hiring process that much easier. This business is used for professional background checks and not for the use of any crime such as identity theft or other illegal activity. You can follow them on their website at www.bcint.com. You can also follow them on Facebook by typing in the word background, then check, then international, then a dash, then BCI. Just remember that this business is used for professional background checks and not for the use of any crimes such as identity theft or any other illegal activity. So, thank you to the SoCal Warriors and Background Check International businesses for being the official sponsors of iSports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. Apologies for the slight little mute. Apparently, my headset mic button accidentally got pressed, which was my apologies, and hopefully it didn't miss out on anything too spectacular, but we'll see. Anyway, now let's get on into the Southern California sports action. So, last weekend we had the Dodgers unfortunately getting eliminated by the Atlanta Braves. Unfortunately, it was a tough break for the Dodgers as the bats just didn't come on, and they had their chances to come back, but unfortunately, they got struck out three straight at-bats, and that was pretty much that for the Dodgers and their chances of possibly tying or taking the lead against the Braves. If they had forced a Game 7, I'm 95% certain the Dodgers would have won that. That would have been spectacular, but unfortunately, the Dodgers fell short, and now they are in the offseason. I just can't believe how many Dodgers haters there were when it came to them winning, or when it came to the Dodgers losing. And now everyone and their moms was like, oh, bye Dodgers, see you later. And it's like, really? Like, I saw Giants fans trolling. It's like, Giants fans, why do you have to say something? It's like, didn't the Giants lose in the NLDS to the Dodgers? It's like, your team went Peyton Manning in the NLDS. And I'm sorry, but I know the Giants have a lot of old guys on their team, but they won 107 games, and they had a bye. They weren't the ones playing in the wild card, and they were refreshed. They were at home, and I know they lost off of a controversial call, but it's kind of payback for what happened when the Dodgers lost via a check swing as well. So, hardy har har. But back to the Dodgers and how many haters they had. It's like no one wanted to see the Dodgers win. No one wanted to see the Dodgers win. Everyone was hoping for the Braves. It's ridiculous. Like, come on, people. And yet people are going to discredit the Dodgers for their championship last year, when I think it's a legitimate championship, and people just need to stop trying to be clickbait and stop having the Dodgers live rent free in their minds. Like, I said this on the the Dodgers live rent free in everyone's minds. It's literally everyone. If people are actually caring for the Dodgers and hoping they lose, I'm pretty sure that's living rent free. Just because I wouldn't hope for the Giants to lose in the NLCS if they were the ones that made it. I'm just saying, like to me, I think the entire world, I think it's just Dodgers versus everybody. Everyone wanted to see the Braves win, and no one wanted to see the Dodgers win in any way, shape, or form. And I'm pretty sure everyone would have liked to have seen the Astros beat the Dodgers. It would have been a great storyline for the Dodgers versus the Astros. The Astros possibly winning a World Series championship and making sure that they would win in a legitimate fashion versus the Dodgers actually winning a full season. And I cannot stand the people that say the Dodgers winning the World Series in not a full season doesn't count. It's like, if it was such a big deal, why didn't your team win it? I'm just saying. But all in all, it was a spectacular year for the Dodgers. Unfortunately, they have a lot of free agents on the horizon. Like, Kershaw's a free agent, Kenley Jansen's a free agent, Max Scherzer's a free agent. Like, it's going to be an interesting offseason for the Dodgers. And disappointingly, I would hope that everyone on that team comes back, but I don't know if they'll have the space to fill for all those players. But if they do, then so be it. It would be really cool to have them back on next year's roster. And if they do, awesome. If they don't, then sad face for me. But I think the Dodgers will be back. It may be a little bit tougher, but I think the Dodgers are that team that is very consistent. Like, we don't know if the Giants will have the same success as they did this year. And we don't know what the future lies in store for the Padres. Speaking of the Padres just hired a new manager, as they have recently hired Bob Melvin, which is the former Oakland A's, well, soon to be Las Vegas A's manager, as Melvin will be going to the Padres. And it sounds like he's trying to bring Matt Olson with him, which that would be really great if the Padres were to acquire Olson, because Matt Olson is phenomenal when it comes to the Oakland A's, and he's been a thorn in the Angels side for so long. But I think I can't really judge just because I don't know who this Bob Melvin guy is. I mean, obviously, Bob Melvin helped the Oakland A's win the AL West from last season's shortened season. But it sounds like the Padres landed a home run with this. And if they can get Matt Olson as well, then that would be even more spectacular. So, all in all, for the Padres, they're trying to pick up the pieces. I still think it's hard to believe that this team didn't make the postseason. It got to the point where they finished under 500. So the Padres have a lot of work to do in order to have themselves another successful season, which I still can't believe they finished under 500 and they didn't even make the playoffs. Like, they were in the driver's seat for some time, and unfortunately they just went on a South losing streak, and then it eventually wound up costing them. So, too bad for them, but hopefully they do pick up the pieces and they get back on track. So, we'll see what happens with them going forward, but all in all, I would like to see them back in the postseason, just because it feels like last year was a mirage to them. And if everyone is going to discredit the Dodgers, they might as well just discredit the Padres after their shortened season successes. So, yeah. All in all, for the Padres, I hope they can get back on track. So, we'll see how it goes for them. But to close the book on the MLB season, the Dodgers had a fantastic year, and the fact that they almost carried themselves to another World Series berth is quite spectacular. And unfortunately, they just ran into a better Braves team. And, well, not better, but a hotter Braves team, because the Braves were not the better team. They were the hotter team. Like, the Braves were under 500 at the All-Star break, and the fact that they were able to come back despite losing so many players to injury, such as Robert Acuna Jr. and many more, I think it speaks to high volumes of Atlanta's determination to win a World Series for the first time since, I think, 94. Either way, they're just as overdue for a World Series championship like the Dodgers were last season. And then as for the Padres, like I said, they have a lot of work to do in terms of picking up the pieces after a collapsed season. And I hope they can get back on track. They are definitely talented enough to get back on track and get back to the playoffs, but they have to have better management. So I hope Bob Melvin is the guy for them. And then as for the Angels were just not good. Like, they were good starting out, and then they just went further and further down. So I really hope the Angels can make a big splash when it comes to getting a good pitcher. But for the Angels, it seems like everything they've touched has turned to rust. Every time they've gotten gold, it's turned into rust and metal. It's turned into rust and corroded. So the Angels have, of the three SoCal teams in the MLB, the Angels have lots of work to do. Whereas the Dodgers, they have a lot of questions to answer, and they have some decisions to make, and then the Padres are just picking up the pieces. So that's basically all for Southern California in terms of the MLB until next season. So thanks, Dodgers. And I'm saying that in a wholesome way, not in a sarcastic way. So, all right, so that's going to do it for the MLB portion of the show. Let's jump to the NFL portion of the show, as last week the Chargers were on bye, and this week they'll be playing the Patriots. I'll be talking about them a little bit later, but we have the LA Rams who played last week against the Detroit Lions. So it was basically former quarterbacks team versus former quarterbacks team. Jared Goff versus Matt Stafford. Jared Goff and the Lions versus Matt Stafford and the Rams. It was quite the wacky game. Like, I could not believe what was going on. Like, the Dodgers were getting baited in terms of fake punts, onside kicks. The Lions were doing all that they can to get that first victory under Dan Campbell. And they were doing whatever they could possibly do, but unfortunately for them, it was just not enough. And the Rams were able to come out with the victory. They won 28-19. It was certainly not the prettiest victory, but it was a victory nonetheless. And sometimes in the NFL, it's any given Sunday, it's tough to win in the NFL, according to, I think, Andy Reid or Bruce Arians. So the Rams currently are 6-1. They're actually on the coattails of the Arizona Cardinals, as the Cardinals suffered their first loss of the season last night against the Green Bay Packers, losing 24-21. And that loss actually opens the door for the Rams, because that could inch them closer and closer to that NFC West title. So this weekend, going back to the Rams, they will be hitting the road to the Lone Star State to take on the Houston Texans. Now, the Houston Texans are a complete mess, plain and simple. The Texans are 1-6. They have lost 6 in a row ever since they beat the Jags in Week 1, and they're starting Davis General Mills, part of a not-so-complete offensive breakfast. See what I did there? I just love myself. Anyway, so the Rams are heading down to Texas to take on the Houston Texans. Believe it or not, the Texans' starting quarterback, Teran Taylor, is still out with a calf injury. I hope Teran does get back soon. He'll most likely be back by the time the Chargers play the Texans. But back to the Rams in this game. Yeah, I see the Rams winning this one, no doubt. And the Rams should win in more dominating fashion. They are a 16-point favorite, as the Rams will look to try to make it their 4th straight win and try to pull into a tie for first place with the Cardinals in the NFC West. So, all in all, I feel bad for the Texans with all that's gone on. Obviously, Bill O'Brien with his poor management skills, and then them trading DeAndre Hopkins and J.J. Watt leaving for Arizona. And God bless J.J. Watt. I hope he does get better. He is out for the season with a season-ending shoulder-type injury. And then the Texans just lost Melvin Ingram to a trade, as he is heading back to the Saints. And it's just a complete dumpster fire. And if I were Brandon Cooks, I would want out of the Texans as well. So, all in all, this should be a big win for the Rams. I'm going to say the Rams win 42-3. I think the Texans get 1 field goal in garbage time, but I think for the most part the Rams are going to dominate. I don't want to predict a score like that, but you look at the Rams and the Texans. The Rams are practically a complete team. Their defense is spectacular. Their offense looks like it's back to clicking ever since that loss to the Cardinals. And I think the Rams are still on a mission to get that number 1 seed in the NFC. Obviously, the goal is to win the NFC West, but they might have bigger dreams than that. So, all in all for the Rams, I think this is just another game where the Texans are a speed bump for the Rams. And I think that the Rams have a great chance of winning their fourth straight and pulling into a tie for first place in the NFC West. The Cardinals obviously have the tiebreaker, but still, you know what I mean. So that's that for the Rams, and I would not be surprised if they shut out the Texans. There was some news, however, involving the Rams, and I wouldn't say it's the worst news, but I'm also not going to say it's the best news, as the Rams are actually going to be shopping DeSean Jackson, their wide receiver. And we all know who DeSean Jackson is. He's the 34-year-old, and Jackson actually has mutually agreed with the Rams to seek a trade partner. So it sucks because DeSean Jackson's role is diminishing, but you also have to look at the entire Rams' receiving core. They have Cooper Kupp, who's spectacular. They have Van Jefferson, who's emerging as a great wide receiver 3. Robert Woods, a.k.a. Bobby Trees, is still their wide receiver 2. And then Tyler Higbee is still been a part of the offense. And then you have Darrell Henderson and maybe a little Sony Michel, but more so Darrell Henderson can be used as a receiving back. So I could see why the Rams and Jackson are about to shop Jackson. So I wish DeSean Jackson the best going forward, and I hope he finds a team that he could provide great services to. Now let's jump over to the Chargers. And speaking of the Chargers, some Chargers fans are saying that the Chargers should get DeSean Jackson. I don't see what that's going to do. Can he play offensive tackle? No. Can he stop the opponent's run defense? No. And you look at the receiver core that the Chargers have. Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, Jared Cook, Donald Parham, even though those two are tight ends. Jalen Guyton, who I hope the Chargers can get more resurgence from. Joshua Palmer, which has been rather disappointing when it comes to their third-round pick. I still think the Chargers, in my mind, should have picked Tommy Tremble, the tight end from Notre Dame, but I digress. And then you have Austin Eckler, who could provide themselves as a receiving back. Speaking of Austin Eckler, Eckler did not practice yesterday due to a hip injury, which is kind of concerning just because he actually practiced the day before. So hopefully Keenan Allen can get to being a full participant or a near full participant today, because the Chargers will certainly need him for their game against the Patriots. Speaking of the Patriots, they play the Chargers this weekend. So I was going to have my buddy, who is a New England Patriots fan. He was on the show last year when the Chargers played the Patriots as well as the Rams, but unfortunately I got to him too late, and he never really got back to me, and I am taking the L on this one. So for the Chargers, they enter this game 4-2, and they are better. They are actually well rested. They are coming off the bye, and their isn't all that. Their injury list isn't all that's banged up. Like, Drew Tranquill is back to being a full participant, and they had some more full participants. The only one that's currently on their injured list is what's-his-face? Austin Eckler, which, yeah, it's still a little concerning, but Nasir Adderley was a full participant, and it looks like he's on track to playing. Mike Williams was a full participant with his knee injury. Drew Tranquill was limited, but it looks like he's on the verge of coming back. I don't know the whereabouts of Kenneth Murray. I don't know if he's on track to playing this weekend or if he's still behind, because the recent reports were Kenneth Murray was on IR and he was on track to playing this weekend, but he was further behind Justin Jones, Nasir Adderley, and I think it was those two. Yeah, just Nasir Adderley and Justin Jones. But having Justin Jones back is going to be a big difference maker for the defense. And then, obviously, having Nasir Adderley gives Derwin James some more leeway. But not having Kenneth Murray is going to suck. But the Chargers still have most of their defensive components. So, and then hopefully Drew Tranquill will be back as well. So, all in all, for the Chargers, they are facing this Patriots team who is coming off of a dominating win over the Jets. So, yeah. My thing for the Chargers is that this is not going to be an easy game. Yes, the Patriots are not as good as they were in years past. Yes, the Chargers have had rotten luck, but this is not against the Patriots. And yes, the Chargers are a different team, but this is certainly not going to be an easy game for the Chargers to win. Just because the Chargers have had rotten luck against the Patriots, and the Patriots are such an unpredictable team. Like, some weeks they'll look pretty decent. Like, you look at some of the body of work that the Patriots have had. Obviously, their wins are against the Jets twice and the Texans. But they played the Bucs really close. They played the Tampa Bay Buccaneers really close. The Saints, I think that pick six that they had really kind of hurt them in the long run. The Dolphins' loss doesn't really do them justice, just because that was just week one, and ever since, the Dolphins have looked absolutely atrocious. And then the Patriots also lost to the Cowboys in overtime, but the Cowboys are definitely a good team. So, looking at most of the games, the Patriots haven't gotten necessarily blown out. Like, their only ugly game they had was against the Saints, which that wasn't even that ugly. Well, and also the Texans was a little ugly, but again, they had Davis Mills, and nobody could make a kick or an extra point and whatnot. So, for the Patriots, they obviously have Mac Jones as their quarterback, and this is going to be the first rookie quarterback the Chargers are seeing this season, as Mac Jones he's been good as of late. Obviously, he's had those games against his wins are obviously against the Jets and the Texans, but he's kept the Patriots in games, and I'm sure my buddy can agree when it comes to Mac Jones. And against the Cowboys, he did have a pick six, but that was Trayvon Diggs that picked it off. Just because Trayvon Diggs, I think, is the best corner in the game, and I don't think anybody can say anything else. So it really is not going to be an easy game for the Chargers, and I think this one might be won via defense. The Chargers are 4.5-point favorites, and honestly, I understand why they're 4.5-point favorites. I'm surprised that number is not a lot lower. I'm surprised the Patriots aren't favorites, just because in years past the Chargers have had struggles against the Patriots and whatnot. So the keys to the Chargers getting the victory are slowing down the run defense. Damian Harris is bound to have a big game, and everyone is encouraging Harris to run the rock and jam it down our throats. Make sure the Chargers get Mac Jones uncomfortable, because obviously Mac Jones is doing a great job when it comes to leading his team, but for that matter, they have to get pressure on him. Bosa has to get to him. Though that offensive line is looking really fine for the Patriots. They haven't really allowed too many sacks or loss of yards when it comes to the Patriots offense. And then offensively, they have to get Eckler going. Like, the Chargers are facing another tough run defense, but I think Eckler could have a bounce back game after last week. And then Justin Herbert needs to get it going, and that offensive line has to protect Justin Herbert at all costs. Like, I could see Rashawn Slater matching up with Matthew Judon, who is one of the Patriots' better pass rushers. The Patriots' defense has been banged up this year, and the Patriots as a whole have been banged up. It's been rather surprising for them, and I thought this would be the year that they would be back in terms of full strength, because they had a lot of players opting out, and unfortunately unfortunately for them, it really sucks that they had players opt out. Gonna try and... It doesn't look like they've released their injury report, which is kind of strange. I thought they would have their injury report, but maybe they don't. Maybe I just can't find it, but Bill Belichick has been praising Justin Herbert just like last season. He says Justin Herbert has been doing spectacular, and he is a phenomenal quarterback, and the fact that he's still young in his age and whatnot. I'm paraphrasing, by the way. And the fact that Justin Herbert has done a phenomenal job is mind-blowing to him. You know the drill. So the Patriots yesterday the Patriots did not have anyone that didn't participate. In other words, everyone participated, but they had quite a bit of limited availability, as David Andrews had an ankle injury, but he was limited. Jawan Bentley, rib injury. Kendrick Bourne, shoulder injury. Carl Davis, hand injury. Kyle Duggar, neck injury. Nick Folk, left knee. Davon Godchow, finger. Dante Hightower, ankle injury. Brandon King, thigh. Shaq Mason, abdomen injury. Jonnu Smith, shoulder injury. Josh Uche, shoulder injury. Kyle Van Noy, groin injury. Sean Wade, concussion. And Dietrich Wise with a knee injury. Dietrich Wise Jr. with a knee injury. And they didn't have any full participants when it came to the injury report. So for the Patriots, they're basically coming in banged up as well. They did have James White on IR, which if James White was playing, that would have been more concerning, just because the Chargers' run defense, like I said, has been absolutely atrocious. And then another player to watch for when it comes to the Chargers, or when it comes to the Patriots, that the Chargers need to keep an eye on is Hunter Henry. Now, Hunter Henry is a former Charger, and this is kind of his revenge game. And Hunter Henry has actually been great as of late. And with Jonnu Smith, the current tight end for the Patriots, not being 100%, this could be Hunter Henry's time to shine. All in all, for the Chargers, I definitely think they can get the victory, but I think this one is going to have to be won through defense. I think they're going to need to put on their hard hats and straight up try to slow down Mac Jones as best as possible. And also, they got to watch out on third downs, because the Patriots are one of the best third down conversion teams offensively. And the Chargers aren't really the best when it comes to third downs. But if they can get to Mac Jones early and often, and if they can protect Justin Herbert and they get him going, I think the Chargers can win this one. It's been way too long since the Chargers last beat the New England Patriots. The last time the Chargers beat the Patriots was back in 2008. And during that year, the Chargers didn't even face Tom Brady. They actually faced Matt Castle. And this was on October 12th, 2008, where the Chargers, back when they were in San Diego, won 30-10. And it was basically an irregular season game. And once again, they didn't have Tom Brady just because Brady was out with the ACL injury, and then Matt Castle had to step in, and then it just wasn't the same. I definitely think that victory had an empty feeling, just because I think Brady would have just tormented the Chargers. And once again, it's been a while since the Chargers have beaten Tom Brady as a whole, let alone the Patriots. The good thing for the Chargers is that they don't have to face Cam Newton. Cam Newton has taken a massive doo-doo all over the Chargers, whether he's been with the Panthers or the Patriots. Even though the Patriots only played the Chargers once with Cam Newton. But still, Cam Newton was undefeated against the Chargers. And more importantly, he's not going to be on the team this year. So, all in all, for the Chargers, I have them winning 28-17. I think this battle is going to be won via defense. I think Bosa is going to have to step up. And then, like I said, Justin Jones is going to have to step up. Derwin James has definitely stepped up, but he can't do it by himself. Linval Joseph may have to step up as well. And then I would not be surprised if Asante Samuel Jr. had himself a big game as well, because that was the former team that his dad played for. So if Asante Samuel Jr. comes up big, don't be surprised, just because his daddy did play for the Patriots, which I think that would be quite the full circle. So I think that would be rather fascinating. That's another player to watch for. I think he might be covering... I think it's Jacoby Myers. Yeah, it was Jacoby Myers. I imagine that's their wide receiver one, just because Jacoby Myers is more times than not their guy their go-to guy for Mac Jones. And for Mac Jones, he is obviously facing a big test. Like, obviously the Bucs were a big test, the Cowboys were another big test. But another thing I would not be surprised is if the Chargers had to play another one-score game with the Patriots. And I would not be surprised if the Chargers had to win off of a game-winning field goal. Speaking of field goals, the Chargers have signed Dustin Hopkins after the Washington football team released him. So that is a good signing, just because Hopkins is good. He's a very good kicker. From 50 yards out, not so much. But more times than not, the Chargers will go for it on fourth down. So I think with Hopkins, it's a much bigger upgrade than Tristan Vizcaino. No offense to Vizcaino, but he just wasn't cutting it. And Brandon Staley does have a lot of faith in Vizcaino. However, he just was not performing well. And as a result, Tristan Vizcaino is on the practice squad. Well, he got released, and then the Chargers brought him back to the practice squad. So Staley still believes in Vizcaino. I hope Vizcaino does get another chance with the Chargers, but right now the Chargers are going to roll with Dustin Hopkins, which I'm glad they addressed that kicker situation. I also would have liked to see the Chargers address their defense, mainly their run defense, and then maybe their offensive line, as, once again, protecting Justin Herbert is the main goal. The Ravens got way too many pressures on Herbert, and also they sacked him a couple times. So they also got to stop that run. They also got to prevent the run defense from giving up so many yards. Like, it's quite ridiculous how many rushes the opposing team has. It's gotten to the point where everyone is starting every running back against the Chargers in fantasy football, which is ridiculous, but it's understandable. Like, if you want to win your fantasy football matchup, you gotta know the matchups. And Damian Harris is obviously going to have a big game. He's going to get his. Mac Jones is going to get his. Like, he obviously has plenty of receivers to pick and choose from, whether it's Hunter Henry, Kendrick Bourne, Jacoby Myers. You get the picture. So, all in all, for the Patriots and the Chargers, this is going to be a tough game. And actually, thinking about it, I think I think I'm gonna play it safe and say the Chargers win 28-17. I've made my prediction. I'm not gonna switch it back. If the Chargers win a lot closer than that, I won't be surprised. But I have the Chargers winning 28-7. If anything, the Chargers will win off of a game-winning field goal. They'll probably win 27-24. That's my realistic prediction. But my best-case scenario, if everything goes well for the Chargers, I think the Chargers win 28-17. But I think this battle is going to be won via defense for either team. And while the Patriots are banged up defensively, I think they still have what it takes to pull off this big win. And the Patriots need as many big wins as possible, and the Chargers need as many good wins as possible as well. They have not beaten the Patriots in forever, so I don't think this would be considered an upset. I just think this would be considered a different result than in years past, because Bill Belichick is the mastermind when it comes to coaching. And that's another thing. It's going to be Bill Belichick, one of the longer tenured head coaches, versus Brandon Staley, who is a young defensive genius. So, all in all, for Chargers versus Patriots, it's going to be a great game. Battle of young quarterbacks and two different coaches. It's going to be fun. So, I hope the Chargers can come up big. I want to see them pulling out a big victory over the Patriots. I think it would be great considering the Raiders are still first in the Raiders just took the lead in the AFC West, but that's only because the Chargers were on bye last week, and now the Raiders are celebrating in first place, which it's rather silly, and no offense to the Raiders, I said this on my personal account, the Raiders have recently beaten the Broncos, which are currently in the midst of a downward spiral, and they also just beat the Eagles, which that team has not looked good. I'm sorry, but they haven't. Speaking of the Eagles, Miles Sanders did go to IR, and Miles Sanders is their running back, which means Kenneth Gainwell is going to be their running back one for some time. Unless they want to have Boston Scott being running back two and whatnot. But it sucks that Miles Sanders has to go to IR, but that's one less running back the Chargers will have to deal with. So, all in all for the Chargers, they got to get through this week, and hopefully there will be no tricks and all treats for the Chargers and their fans. I don't know if Patriots fans will be making the trip all the way from Massachusetts to beautiful California, but I would not be surprised if the Chargers fans and the Patriots fans were like 50-50, but we'll see. All right, so that is going to do it for the NFL portion of the show. Let's jump to the NBA, and the NBA portion is kind of going to be an ugly one, primarily with the Lakers. Oy. So we'll start with the Clippers first. So the Clippers last week had lost to the Memphis Grizzlies 120-114. The 2 days after they lost their season opener to the Golden State Warriors. Again, the Clippers are short-handed. They do not have Kawhi Leonard, and they do not have a number of some of their starters, so they'll have to make do with what they've got currently. But they did pick up their first victory of the season as they beat the Portland Trailblazers 116-86. Luke Kennard, believe it or not, led the way with 23 points. And Ivica Zubac had 8 boards, and then Eric Bledsoe had 7 assists. So all in all, for the Clippers, it was a good win. I really am happy the Clippers finally got on the board. And they limited Damian Lillard. Damian Lillard has not been effective, which is kind of concerning, actually, as Lillard only had 12 points and he was 0 for 8 from downtown. So it's kind of a good thing the Clippers didn't get Dame Dollars, but c'est la vie, I guess. The Clippers most recently lost to the Cleveland Cavaliers on Wednesday, losing 92-79 on Wednesday, which is disappointing, but what can you do? The good news for the Cavs is that I want to say my boy Evan Mobley had himself a big game. He had a solid game. He had 12 points and 10 boards. That's pretty good, actually. And he's only a rookie, so the fact that he's getting double-doubles is kind of nice. It's very, very nice. So keep doing us proud, Evan Mobley. I'm getting a little teary-eyed. I'm kidding. But to see the Clippers only scoring 79 points is rather surprising. They were led by Reggie Jackson and Nick Batum, who each had 16 points, and Paul George had 12 points, and he was 0 for 3. 0 for 8 from three-point range. So, kind of an ugly night for the Clippers all around. It reminds me of those old school games where defense was a thing, but I digress. So this week, starting tonight, we have the Clippers taking on the Portland Trailblazers at 7 p.m. And then the Clippers head back to Staples Center, or will stay at they'll head back to Staples Center to take on the Oklahoma City Thunder on Monday. Then the following Wednesday, they'll be hitting the road for a 2-game road trip against the Minnesota Timberwolves. They'll actually be playing the Timberwolves next Wednesday and Friday, which is quite surprising. I'm surprised we are seeing the Clippers taking on the Timberwolves. As we say hello to Marcus Losgreat in the chat room, thank you for tuning in. He says, let's get it cracking in the chat. Yes, the chat room has been rather quiet, and I just got done with talking about the Dodgers in the NFL portion, so now we're on to the NBA, as we are talking about the Clippers, and how they only have one win on the season, which I can't really say the same for the Lakers. They're no better, but they have 2 wins on the season, as last Friday, they lost to the Phoenix Suns, 115-105. Apparently, Anthony Davis and Dwight Howard got into it on the bench, and it's like, uh-oh. But Rajon Rondo and I think Dwight Howard and Anthony Davis said they squashed the beef. They squashed the beef like it was at Chipotle. And now I've made myself hungry for some Chipotle. So, the Lakers did lose to the Suns, 115-105. It was much worse in the first half, though. And I think in the third quarter as well. But the Lakers did get their first win of the victory this past Sunday as they beat the Memphis Grizzlies 121-118. The Lakers did get a little lucky just because Ja Morant missed the third of 3 free throws after he got fouled on a 3-point attempt. And it's like, guys, come on. You're fouling a 3-point shooter. What are you doing, dude? Like, the Lakers really lucked out. I don't mean to say that. I think there's no such thing as luck, but if Ja Morant makes that free throw, then the Lakers have to decide who's taking the final shot. And in that game against the Grizzlies, LeBron unfortunately hurt his leg or his ankle, which he was out for the next 2 games following that win over the Grizzlies, as the Lakers were able to pull off the victory on the road against the San Antonio Spurs, winning 125-121 in overtime. And boy howdy, they needed everything to go their way. And it even got to the point where they had to bank on Russell Westbrook. I almost said Russell Wilson, but we're not talking NFL. We're talking NBA. As Brody actually had himself a big game with 33 points, 10 boards, and 8 assists. So thank goodness Russell Westbrook had that big game. But Anthony Davis came up big as he had 35 points and 17 boards, which is good, even though Anthony Davis kind of had to go knee to knee with, I think it was it Tuesday? No, it was Tuesday. Tuesday he went knee to knee with one of the Spurs players, and it looked like it was worse, but he was able to finish the game, which is kind of a relief. Can't really say the same for poor Nikola Jokic, who went knee to knee with someone and he was limited. But that doesn't have anything to do with SoCal. Anyway, so the Lakers were able to pull off their second straight win. Unfortunately for the Lakers, they lost this past Wednesday to the Oklahoma City Thunder, 123-115. I did not catch the game, but I heard it was not a pretty game because the Lakers blew a 26-point lead, which, come on, how do you blow a 26-point lead to the then winless Thunder? It's like, oh my God. It's like, and it was against Russell Westbrook's former team. Pain, I tell you. Pain. Like, it's one thing to blow a lead, but a 26-point lead to the Thunder? Ugh. I understand the lead was in the second quarter, but still. Oh, Lord have mercy on my soul. The good news is for the Lakers and Russell Westbrook is that Westbrook did get his triple-double as he got 20 points, 13 assists, and 14 rebounds. But it doesn't matter because the Lakers lost. It's like, how do you lose a 26-point lead? Ugh. On a brighter note, Anthony Davis had 30 points despite him being limited. So, oh my goodness. And another bright spot, I guess, was Avery Bradley going 3 for 4 from downtown and having 13 points, which is good. I think the Lakers should utilize Avery Bradley more in their offensive system. So, if so, then that would be awesome sauce. And then I guess Carmelo Anthony. And then another note, Carmelo Anthony had 13 points, but the previous night he moved to 9th all-time in scoring as he surpassed Moses Malone. So, good for Carmelo, and hopefully the Lakers do get back on track tonight. Tonight they are playing the Cleveland Cavaliers, which obviously they did a number on the Clippers, and my boy Evan Mobley should have a big game, as Evan Mobley is actually coming back to Southern California, as this game will be played at Staples Center. So I think this is going to be a good homecoming game for Evan Mobley, since he has been a Southern California boy. He went to Rancho Christian. I think he grew up in like the Chatsworth or Rancho Cucamonga area, if I'm not mistaken. He's a SoCal guy. That's what I'm trying to say. But it is going to be a nice little homecoming game for Evan Mobley, and I think it's going to be a fun little matchup for the Lakers and the Cavs. And then I don't know the whereabouts of LeBron. Like, he did not play against the Spurs, he did not play against the Thunder, but we don't know if LeBron's going to play tonight. I want to say he is, but it still is up in the air. So there's that. So we'll see what happens with those two games. Later on in the week, the Lakers will be staying at home to take on the Houston Rockets, which the Rockets I feel bad for, but not really. That team, when they were good, as Marcus put it, that team went Peyton Manning when it came to the postseason. We're not talking about Super Bowl Peyton Manning. We're talking about one-and-done Peyton Manning. So, yeah. That was back when they had Mike D'Antoni and Russell Westbrook. And believe it or not, the Lakers have the back-to-back games against the Rockets on Sunday and Tuesday, which that should be quite... I would say it would be the easiest win, just because the Rockets could have a couple tricks up their sleeve, but it's certainly not going to be a simple game. It's not going to be complex, but it's not going to be simple. So Lakers just need to play their game and see who's available and who's not. And then next Thursday, the Lakers will still stay at home to take on the Oklahoma City Thunder, which I hope the Lakers, if they do get a 26-point lead, they don't blow it. I still can't believe that, man. What are you doing, Lakers? Ugh. But anyway, I think this week should be a much better week for the Lakers. I think they will be just fine this week. They have to get at least 2 wins. Maybe 3 at the most. If they go 4 for 4, awesome. If the Lakers just get 2 or 3, that would be great as well. Because currently they are 2-3 in the overall standings, and they do... It's still early in the season. I'm not going to downplay this, but I still think that they should not be falling too far behind, because they definitely don't want to have these losses catch up to them. So there's that right there. And then in the Western Conference, there's only one team that remains undefeated when it comes to the Western Conference, and that's the Utah Jazz, which I don't know if people would have predicted that, but hey, it is what it is. And I don't understand why I'm not seeing any of the other teams in the Eastern Conference in their standings. So all I know is that Detroit is they're still winless. The Magic have won one. Yeah, it looks like the only winless team remaining in the NBA is the Detroit Pistons, which I feel bad for them, but not really. So that sounds mean. I'm sorry, Detroit fans, but I still can't get 2004 out of my head, where the Lakers lost to the Bad Boy Pistons Jr. Well, no, I don't think they were the Bad Boy Pistons, but having Rasheed Wallace, Ben Wallace... Actually, no. I think Rasheed came after the Lakers lost to the the Pistons. I'm not entirely sure. I'm 95% certain Rasheed Wallace was on the Trailblazers, then he got traded to the Hawks, and then eventually he got traded to the Pistons. But that was the year where the Pistons were legit. And that was a year I will remember, just because Ben Wallace was a beast. Chauncey Billups was Mr. Big Shot. Rip Hamilton was legit. I think that was the emergence of Tayshaun Prince, because I think he was. If I'm not mistaken, I think Prince was near the draft class of LeBron and Carmelo. All I remember is that the Pistons had the number 2 pick the previous year, and they wound up picking Darko Milicic. But I'm getting off track. That has nothing to do with SoCal. Anyway, so for the Clippers and the Lakers, they still have plenty of time to catch up. Like, the Clippers are currently 11th in the West, while the Lakers are 9th in the West. Again, the Lakers are only 5 games in. They still have 76 games to go. So I don't think the Lakers should be hitting the panic button just yet, and I don't think other teams should be hitting the panic button just yet, especially not the Nets. Even though they're 2-3, but still, it's still early in the season. Like, the Nets lost to the Bucks, which is a good team. They beat the Sixers, which wasn't too bad. The Sixers are a pretty legit team, somewhat. The Hornets stung the Nets, which Hornets have been quite the pleasant surprise. And then the Nets beat the Wizards, which isn't too impressive. And then the Heat beat the Nets on Wednesday. So there's that. But all in all, for the Lakers and Clippers, it's still very early in the season. I just wish the Lakers would stop getting freaking injured, just because they can't afford too many injuries at this point. Otherwise, what happened last year is going to happen this year, and we can't have that. Especially in the very competitive Western Conference, which is crawling with good teams like the Warriors, the Jazz, the Nuggets are starting to... I don't know how Jokic is going to be, but still, it's still early, so it's too tough to tell. I still think the Suns will be good. The Clippers should get back on track. But I think currently right now, the Warriors and the Jazz have been the most impressive teams in the Western Conference. Do I think they can win it all? It still remains to be seen. But for right now, I'm not concerned over the Lakers and Clippers at this point of time. Alright, so that's going to do it for the NBA portion of the show. We're just going to quickly breeze through the NHL portion. Long story short, for the Ducks and the Kings, they didn't get any wins this past week. The Ducks lost last Saturday to the Minnesota Wild 4-3 in overtime. This past Tuesday, the Ducks lost to the Jets 4-3. And then this past Thursday, or yesterday, the Ducks lost to the Buffalo Sabres 4-3 in overtime. Basically, the Ducks have found so many ways to lose 4-3, and they still can't win in overtime. It's rather disappointing, as tonight the Ducks hit the road to Sin City to take on the Golden Knights, and then on Sunday, the Ducks will be heading back home to the Honda Center to take on the Montreal Canadiens. And then Tuesday, the Ducks will be taking on the New Jersey Devils. The New Jersey Devils. And then next Friday, the Ducks will be staying at Honda Center to take on the Arizona Coyotes. So you think the Ducks are doing bad. Like, they're second to last in the Pacific Division. The last place team in the Pacific Division is the Kings. And boy howdy, it was a rough week. It was a rough week for them last week. As last Friday, they lost to the Dallas Stars 3-2 in overtime. And then last Saturday, the Kings got demolished against the St. Louis Blues by a football score of 7-3. And then last Monday, the Blues took it to the Kings again as they beat them 3-0. And yesterday, the Kings led 2-1, but wound up losing 3-2 as the Winnipeg Jets scored 2 goals in the third inning, or the third period. Southern California is back to being bad at hockey again. Oh my goodness. Okay, so the Kings will be heading back home to Staples to take on the Montreal Canadiens on Saturday. Sunday, the Kings will stay home to take on the Buffalo Sabres. The Kings have a good shot at taking down the Canadiens, and so do the Ducks. Against the Sabres, it might not look so good. The Kings once again, we'll be playing the St. Louis Blues on Wednesday. This time it'll be at Staples, so the Kings will have the luxury of playing in Southern California. And then next Friday, the Kings take on the New Jersey Devils, which hopefully for the Kings they don't humiliate themselves, as at least the Kings are not the worst team in the NHL. That honor belongs to the Arizona Coyotes and the Chicago Blackhawks. And boy howdy, the Chicago Blackhawks have been a mess. I haven't been following what's been happening with them, but golly, that is a team that has been a complete and utter travesty, with everything happening on and off the ice. And then also, Chicago and Arizona have yet to register a win. The fact that they have overtime losses is quite surprising, but I digress. So, all in all, Southern California hockey stinks when it comes to the NHL. I'm sorry, but it is the truth. C'est la vie, I guess. At least the San Jose Sharks are doing well in the Pacific Division, so all of California isn't looking too bad in hockey, but San Jose isn't really in Southern California, so moving on. So, anyway, for the Ducks and the Kings, there's still plenty of time. It's still early in the season, but this is looking like another grim season for those two. That's going to do it for the NHL portion of the show. Let's take ourselves a quick break. When we come back, we will have the NCAA football portion of the show. And then we'll also have the MLS portion of the show. And then lastly, we have the Dum Dum of the Week award, because we obviously have to end the show with that. So you're listening to the SoCal Supreme Sports Show here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. We'll be right back after a word from these commercials.
It's IE Sports Radio. It is your direct feed for all that is sports. It is Philly Sports Talk with Cash and Chris every Tuesday night right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Philly Sports Talk with Cash and Chris is the most comprehensive view on Philadelphia sports, exclusively right here on IE Sports Radio. You know what it is, your direct feed for all that is sports. Tuesday night, IE Sports Radio, Philly Sports Talk with Cash and Chris.
Everybody, this is Teran Rodriguez. Are you a fan of volleyball? Are you a fan of Thunderous Spikes? Then I have the show for you, Set Point, where I cover NCAA men's and women's volleyball, high school boys and girls volleyball, beach volleyball, and even professional volleyball. Catch the action every week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
What is going on, everybody? This is Ben Metello, the host of the Yinza Report, right here on IE Sports Radio. I'm bringing you the latest in the Steel City, the City of Champions, from the Steelers, the Penguins, the Pirates, as well as the college game with both Penn State and Pitt. You could join me every Tuesday afternoon at 1 o'clock Eastern Standard Time right here on IE Sports Radio, where I'll be talking about everything from the Steel City, the City of Champions, right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Back with segment number 2 of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. I appreciate everybody tuning in. You can catch all of our amazing shows on iSports Radio, such as on different streaming platforms: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Podcast Addict, Spreaker, even GeoSavan, however it's pronounced. And some of our shows are even on iHeartRadio, such as Set Point, which was the show commercial you heard playing right as of right now, the Soccer Scoreboard Show, 3 and Out College Edition, 3 and Out, Fast Break, you name it. So without any further delay, let's get on back into the Southern California sports action. So we shall jump to the MLS portion of this show. So it's crunch time for both the LA Galaxy and LAFC, as the Galaxy are still trying to lock up a spot in the playoffs, as now they have to face a gauntlet of games. So Wednesday, the Galaxy lost to Sporting KC 2-0, and then last Saturday, the Galaxy tied with Dallas 2-2. The fact that the Galaxy were down 2-0 against Dallas speaks to high volumes of no game is guaranteed. So the Galaxy have 2 more games remaining, as they'll be hitting the road to Seattle to take on the Sounders. The Sounders have surprisingly been reeling, as they've lost 3 of their last 4 games, and they've only won 1 out of their past 5. So I think that could be the moment where the Galaxy could take one on the road against Seattle, as they have played Seattle competitively. The last time they played them, they lost 2-1, as the Galaxy led, and then unfortunately Seattle, being the very talented team they are, came back. Currently in the Western Conference, the Galaxy are 6th, and here's the thing about the Galaxy: they actually can clinch a spot in the MLS playoffs. However, according to Damian Calhoun, the Galaxy can clinch a playoff berth no sooner than Tuesday if they win on Monday against Seattle, Minnesota loses or ties against Sporting KC, which could possibly happen, and then LAFC loses or ties against Vancouver on Tuesday. So, it sounds doable, but the Sounders are still the Sounders, and that kind of needs to happen. And then we don't know what Vancouver has to offer, considering they're still vying for playoff spots, and LAFC is still vying for playoff spots. That's quite a bit to happen if the Galaxy want to make the playoffs. But if it does, then the Galaxy are in. Again, Seattle has been reeling as of late, but they are still tied with Sporting KC in terms of points. They have 58 points, and if Seattle does want to win the Western Conference and get that first round bye, they are going to need to play some hard football or soccer, as Seattle, like I said, they have lost 3 of their last 4, and they've only won 1 of their last 5. Their last win came against the Colorado Rapids, which was a statement win, and then their last non-loss came against the Colorado Rapids, which, ironically enough, that was a 1-1 loss. I'm sorry, the last win for Seattle came against Vancouver. The previous win was against Colorado, but Seattle beat Vancouver 4-1, and that was the last win that the Seattle Sounders have registered. Ever since, it's been a little bit of a struggle for for Seattle, as they just recently got demolished by LAFC. Speaking of LAFC, they have 2 games remaining, and LAFC, like I said, they just slaughtered Seattle 3-0 on Tuesday. And they are in must-win mode. They have to win the remainder of their games if they want to make it into the Western Conference playoffs, or the playoffs in general. Why did I just say Western Conference? Either way, LAFC currently at the moment only trails Real Salt Lake by 1 point, but Real Salt Lake is doing all it can to try to win. Real Salt Lake actually won this past Wednesday, and then Real Salt Lake has 3 games remaining as opposed to the LAFC's 2, as this Saturday Real Salt Lake takes on Seattle. And then as for LAFC this past week, they also tied with Minnesota 1-1, which isn't bad. I mean, Minnesota is also vying for playoff spot as well, but it does not do LAFC good because they're in must-win territory, and they have to win. Anyway, so LAFC, with 2 games remaining, will play at home against Vancouver. Now, the thing about LAFC is ever since they went 1 month without getting a win, they have looked rather good, as they have not lost a game they haven't lost a match in over 5 matches. Against Vancouver, Vancouver is still vying for a playoff spot, as currently they are 5th. So a win for Vancouver boosts their chances of making the playoffs, and it also boosts their chances of possibly getting a higher spot come playoff time. The highest I could see Vancouver getting is probably 4th, just because Portland has 49 points, where the 3rd highest in the West is Colorado with 55. And I don't think Seattle and KC are going to be slipping anytime soon. So there's that. But all in all, for LAFC, they have to get that win over Vancouver. And then Colorado closes out its season LAFC closed out the season against Colorado on the road. And Colorado knows if it wants to be the top seed in the Western Conference, they're going to need a win out as well, as Colorado has 2 games remaining, starting this Sunday against Houston on the road. And then, like I said, Colorado closed out the season against LAFC. So it's basically coming down to the wire here, and it could be anyone's playoff spot to win or lose. For the Galaxy, they've been in the playoff hunt for most of the year, and I don't even think they've been outside of the top 7. But if the Galaxy want to make the playoffs, they're either going to need a win or they're going to need to tie. Because my boy Andrew Hagenbaugh said on Twitter, definitely do check out the Soccer Scoreboard Show, that it's all about getting points for them and staying afloat when it comes to the Western Conference. Just because, again, the Galaxy's last 2 games are very, very important. The Galaxy, on the other hand, play Seattle this Sunday. They play them on Monday, and then they play Minnesota next Sunday. Not this Sunday, the following Sunday. The week after Halloween. There you go. So, for the Galaxy, again, 1 win would be great. 2 wins would be spectacular. A tie wouldn't even be bad. If they lose, then it's not going to look good, because they'll fall further and further back. And, again, when it comes to 4 through 7, it's still anyone's spot. Even Portland isn't guaranteed a playoff spot just yet. They did just recently beat San Jose, so there's that. And Real Salt Lake plays Portland. I don't know who I want to see win between Real Salt Lake and Portland. I think Portland is probably the team that Galaxy fans or LAFC fans want to see beat Real Salt Lake. And then, fortunately for Portland, they close out the season at home against Austin, which they're not going to the playoffs. Sad to say, but it is what it is. And I don't think San Jose is going to be in the postseason anytime soon, just because San Jose has 37 points. They are further back from LAFC, as San Jose has 2 matches remaining. And even if they do get the full 6 points, that only puts them at 43. So we could eliminate San Jose. So it's basically down to 4 through 9. And remember, the top 7 teams make the postseason, and the number 1 seed gets the first round bye, which means Sporting KC, Seattle, or Colorado have that opportunity to get that first round bye and play the winner of the 4 versus 5 game. So, all in all, for the Western Conference in terms of the MLS, it's starting to heat up. It is really heating up. Can I also just say that the New England Revolution are on a winning tear? It is absolutely amazing, and I can't believe it. They have 73 points. I thought the Patriots were supposed to be the only good team in football. Just trying to be funny here, but all in all, for back to the Western Conference, the Galaxy, I at least want to see a tie from them this weekend. A tie would definitely do them good. A win would be even better, along with a LAFC tie and a Minnesota tie or loss to Sporting KC. Again, if the Galaxy win and then Sporting KC ties or beats Minnesota, or LAFC loses to Vancouver, then the Galaxy are in. After missing the playoffs last year, I think Galaxy fans want to see the Galaxy back in the postseason, just because it wouldn't be the same without the Galaxy. And then LAFC we don't care about. I'm kidding. It would be great to see LAFC making the postseason as well, but their chances are slim. Though I think they can take down I think LAFC can take down Vancouver. I'm just not so sure about Colorado, so we'll have to see. Time will tell. All right, that's going to do it for the MLS portion of the show. Now let's jump on into the NCAA football portion of the show. So let's just get this matchup out of the way. USC lost to Notre Dame 31-15, which that's no surprise right there. It's just, 31-16. My apologies. So this was no big surprise for USC. They wound up losing to Notre Dame on the road as the jeweled Chalet is still in possession of the Fighting Irish. So USC 3-4 will take on Arizona, which has yet to win a game, and it seems like Arizona finds ways to lose games despite them possibly having the opportunity to win them. USC has to beat Arizona. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. If Arizona finds a way to beat USC, then USC needs to shut down the season for good. They need to start tanking. But all in all, for USC, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. They are winning against Arizona. I'm not even going to predict a score. USC is for sure winning on Saturday against Arizona. Fight me if you think otherwise. Anyway, so UCLA, on the other hand, they suffered a tough loss to Oregon, losing 34-31. They came close, and I imagined they were going to possibly give Oregon a battle, but I knew UCLA would not come out on top. DTR unfortunately couldn't finish the game as he got hurt, and then Ethan Garbers, the transfer quarterback from Washington, tried to rally the troops. But unfortunately, it was not meant to be, as Oregon wound up picking up the victory, and that was that. But UCLA made it interesting. They were down 17, and they almost came back, but Oregon just shut the door on them, which is heartbreaking, but it is what it is. The thing that really stuck out to me was that UCLA actually had a 14-0 lead. Oregon started coming back, and then UCLA had a 17-14 lead at halftime. But unfortunately, UCLA's offense kind of shut off for the time being, and they picked the wrong time to do so. So UCLA's chances of winning the Pac-12 South just got a little bit more slimmer, or a lot more slimmer, as UCLA will be heading down to Salt Lake City to take on Utah. This is a tough one. I really want to I really want to say that UCLA can beat Utah, but I don't think they will. I think it's going to be another close loss for UCLA. I think Utah pulls out the victory. Let's say 31-27. I think UCLA comes just short because they had 2 field goals instead of going for it, or they missed an extra point, which I highly doubt that happens. But all in all, I think UCLA will make it competitive, but I think they'll lose by 1 score. I think it'll kind of just be like the Oregon game, but I think Utah is much improved, and I think Utah knows that if they pick up this victory, then they will most likely be in control of the Pac-12 South standings, just because they know how important it is and how every game is precious to them going forward. So we'll see what happens to Utah going forward. As looking at Utah's schedule, they have Stanford the following week, then they have Arizona, then Oregon, and then they close the season out against Colorado. So Utah doesn't have any guaranteed they don't have too many guaranteed victories, but they don't have any easy games either. So we'll see what happens to them going forward. And then closing out the Southern California portion of the NCAA football part of the show, San Diego State beat Air Force 20-14, which is awesome sauce. The big player that stole the show was their punter, as he unloaded an 81-yard punt, which I think it was basically from the end zone, which was quite awesome. So all in all for San Diego State, they are becoming more likable by the day, which is really awesome. And I think it would be great to see San Diego State getting all the way to the undefeated status. And if they do, awesome. If they don't, then I will be heartbroken. But I think San Diego State has deserved this, and it's really, 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 really awesome. And furthermore, I think that San Diego State is going to... I think they still have a good shot at winning the Mountain West Conference. But they still have to play their cards right. They have lots of big-time matches to go. And Matt Ariza was the one that punted the ball. So there's that for San Diego State. That's their big punter who had the 80-yard punt, which is quite nice. And he could possibly go high in the draft. We'll see. But for San Diego State, going back to them, they are 7-0. They are currently ranked number 21 in the top 25, as they'll be heading back home to take on Fresno State on Saturday at 7:30 p.m. Here's the thing for Fresno State. It's the Battle of the Oil Can, as this match this game not only has big-time implications for the oil can, but it also has possible implications for the Mountain West Conference Western Division. And if San Diego State wins, that puts them in the driver's seat going forward. Obviously, San Diego State still has quite a number of challenges left, as they still have Nevada, which is up there, and then Boise State, which is still perennially good, and then Hawaii is no guaranteed win. But that win over Fresno State would put them in the driver's seat when it comes to winning that, as that would put them much closer and closer. That would be quite amazing if San Diego State were to pick up that victory. However, San Diego State has to be careful because they do like to play Russian roulette when it comes to close games. They're kind of like the Chargers almost, except they're actually winning a lot of their close games. Like, again, Air Force, I want to say they figured out the run game, as Chance Bell, which I imagine is Greg's brother, was able to have 50 yards of rushing. Like, it didn't look like the offense of San Diego State was clicking, but it looks like San Diego State's defense kind of put a number on Air Force, which is kind of the norm. Like, I think when it comes to San Diego State, expect a defensive battle. as both teams didn't even surpass 300 total yards, which is quite nice. But that's the power of the defense for you. San Diego State has to cut off its penalties. They had 61 yards of penalties, and they had 10 penalties overall. So if San Diego State wants to win, they cannot have a penalty frenzy. So there's that. And then also chewing up time of possession would be great as well. So we'll see if San Diego State can keep its unbeaten streak alive against Fresno State. And it's also NorCal versus SoCal, so we can't forget about that now, can we? So there's that. And now it is time. Well, first, that's going to conclude the NCAA football portion of the show. I actually forgot about San Diego and Cal Poly, but San Diego did pull out the victory, beating Presbyterian 69-28. My golly. As they play Valpo or Valparaiso on Saturday. So there's that little matchup right there. And then also Cal Poly, I want to say Cal Poly got its you-know-what kicked against UC Davis or something along those lines. Either way, it was not pretty for Cal Poly, as looking at the Cal Poly schedule, they didn't lose by that much against UC Davis. They lost 24-13, but still lost, as Cal Poly is 1-6 on the year. They'll head down to the city that always rains, aka Portland, to take on Portland State. So we'll see if Cal Poly can salvage some wins. I mean, their most guaranteed victory would be against Idaho State, but all in all, it's not guaranteed. Nothing is guaranteed when it comes to football. Anyway, now that's going to end the NCAA football portion of the show. We do have one more thing to wrap up, and then I shall send you all on your way for the weekend. And that is the Dum Dum of the Week Award. The Dum Dum of the Week Award goes to people who do dumb things in this world, whether it's my neighbor, whether it's my neighbor's dog, whether it's my neighbor's cat, whether it's anything. Nobody is safe from the Dum Dum of the Week Award, and anyone can get it. And this Dum Dum of the Week Award has to go to someone that I think really deserves it. And it is so sad that I have to give this Dum Dum of the Week award out to this person. And this person obviously not only did something really dumb, but she did something really illogical. So this happened when the Baltimore Ravens played the Cincinnati Bengals this past Sunday. And there were two Baltimore Ravens broadcasters who were doing their thing, calling the game like it was nobody's business. And then, this might go down as the dumbest thing ever, but there was this lady who was climbing into the press box, and she asked, "I am a veteran. I deserve to be here. I want a drink." That was actually a paraphrase, but honestly, she climbed up into the press box and she said, "I am a veteran. I want a drink." That was me banging my head, if you could hear it. On what planet is it okay for someone to climb into a press box and ask for that? First of all, why are you even... That's not even the way to the freaking bar. Why are you disturbing two people who are doing their job, calling this game for all the Ravens fans and the Bengals fans, and for you to climb up into the press box and ask for a drink is absolutely idiotic. It's not just dumb, it's illogical. Why would anyone do that? If you're looking for a drink, go to the freaking snack bar stands. It doesn't even... Was there even a sign that said snack bar or drinking bar? Like, I hope this lady enjoyed her 1 to 2 to 3 seconds of fame, because I guarantee her she will not be back at any Ravens games or Bengals games or wherever. Like, I expect this person to be banned, and I expect her to get charges as well. Like, if the Ravens or the Bengals aren't doing anything to possibly, like, press charges against her, because that's not only dumb, but that's trespassing. Like, and it's disturbing someone else's job, and these broadcasters are getting paid to do these games, and the fact that you're climbing into the press box and saying, I'm a veteran, I want a drink, is absolutely dumb to the point where you are this week's Dum Dum of the Week award. Furthermore, where is security? Why were they not informed of this? Like, come on. Like, they didn't really pick up on her? So I'm surprised this gal was able to climb into the press box without security looking at her. But either way, the person, whether she's a Bengals fan or a Ravens fan, that climbed into the press box and wanted a drink from, like, an alcoholic drink, who asked and disturbed the two broadcasters of the Baltimore Ravens, you are this week's Dum Dum of the Week award, and you define the word dumb and you take it to a next level.
So dumb. You are really dumb. For real.
And that, my friends, is all she wrote. Someone climbed into the broadcaster's booth and asked for a drink. And we never even asked if you were a veteran. Nobody asked that question. And we don't care if you are a veteran. I mean, God bless all veterans, but the fact that does not give you the right to climb into a press box to ask for a drink. Matter of fact, to anyone that are actually defending this person, and to anyone that even asked that if she was a veteran or not, here's what I have to tell you.
Here to tell you right now, we don't care.
Let me tell you something.
We don't care.
Yeah, we don't care. We don't care if you're a veteran. We don't care if you're looking for a drink or a martini or a cocktail or any of that sort. Stop letting these people roam free and do what they want. I don't get it anymore. What's going on in this world? Like, this was a no-brainer of who was going to be Dum Dum of the Week. Dum Dum of the Week. I'm sorry, but it really was a no-brainer. On that note, however, that is going to do it for this week's episode of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. Before I lose any more sanity, I appreciate everybody tuning in, and without any further delay, let's get on out of here, because I got to get ready for work soon, and we've got some more shows on the way. You dig? Thank you all very much for tuning in to the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. I really do appreciate you all tuning in. Thank you to my boy, Marcus Los Great, for dropping off in the dropping by into the chat room. I appreciate you tuning in for a little bit. And to everyone that listened live or everyone that listened on the playback, I appreciate you tuning in. If you listen live on the playback, if you listen live, I appreciate you. If you listen on the playback, I appreciate you. If you listen at work, I appreciate you. If you listen in the wee hours of the morning, I appreciate you. I appreciate all the support you give for this show and for Set Point. I really do appreciate you. It means the world to me. For everyone here at IE Sports Radio, this is Teran Rodriguez signing off. You all have yourself an amazing weekend. I will catch you all Monday for Set Point. Yeah, matter of fact, you'll catch me on Sunday for Sunday Night Football on Longton Sports Radio or USL. Regardless, I will see you all Monday for Set Point. You all have yourself a great weekend. Be kind to one another. Be a good person. Don't be stupid. And just be a good citizen. It costs no money to be a good citizen. That's all I have to tell you all. Have a great weekend. And just remember, SoCal is for SoCal. Peace!